Hi, I'm Kira.
And I'm Rohan Nahar.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing the new John Abraham movie, The Diplomat, which is now on Netflix. Not to be confused with the series of the same name, which is also on Netflix, which does not have John Abraham. Set on a real life story, which I make it very clear in the end. If you have gotten there, and congratulations, you made it to the end. Yeah, Rohan, how did you make it to the end?
I made it to the end because I don't know, like after, it didn't start off all that terribly. It's like the first 5 or 10 minutes I thought were okay,
Yeah.
but then I think every subsequent minute was worse than the
Yeah.
previous one.
Yeah, I think the moment like Ozma is in the embassy or high commission, keep using different words. I think everything just like starts to go downhill like very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. The moment she, because I thought that they were going to do something really smart with it, and maybe do like a locked room sort of smart thriller
Yeah.
where the Indians don't know who she is, and the
Yeah.
Pakistanis obviously suspect her of being like a spy, and there's like back and forth, and you try to figure out the truth or whatever. But this is not
Yeah.
directed by Steven Soderbergh, sadly.
Exactly.
Eventually, it becomes like a basically like a cross between Ayushmann Khurrana and Akshay Kumar movie, which is
Yeah, like which is like a weird space for John Abraham to be. Like I thought like his stick was that was to do movies where he can flash his like grin and like be like, oh look, what a cool scene, action scene I did there.
yeah, he or like pick up motorcycles with his bare hands or
Yeah,
like
that's like he
throw.
was perfectly cast in Pathan, right? Like that's the kind of movies he does now. But now
Yeah,
wants to do like a movie where he's basically like a suit.
yeah, I mean, so he's done versions of this in the past. I wouldn't say this is the first time. Like I remember Madras Cafe years ago.
But then Mother was a feel like a different John Abraham era to me.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, like a superhero, John Abraham.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
this one is in all, I mean, barring the action, this is basically a superhero movie only, na? Matlab, like, wo kar kya raha hai? He's not, like, ideally, he's not supposed to be in the movie. Like, that's what I kept thinking the whole time. Like, this guy is in any other, like, a smarter movie, he would be like some dude who comes in the last 10 minutes, right? And is in the background somewhere. But for some reason, they've chosen to make this entire movie from his perspective. Like the entire movie is from a perspective of like, no, he's not even the high commissioner, right?
Yeah.
He's like the deputy high commissioner. So वो मतलब high commissioner was like, हाँ, figure this out. I mean, I'm guessing in real life. And this dude just like made a few calls because I don't understand. Like, why is this the most dramatic element of the story when you take us into a flashback where like actual crazy stuff is happening?
Yeah.
And I'm like, एक second, ये कौन सी picture है? You know, tell me that one. Because at least then you're centering the woman in that. Here it's like a John Abraham movie and he's like a savior and whatever, and the woman gets tortured.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? He's just like he's spotlight everywhere. Even in the courtroom scene, where ideally it would just be Uzma and the lawyer versus Tahir and his lawyer. We get John Abraham literally in the middle of the two. He is literally the curtain between the husband and the wife. I'm like, तू क्या कर रहा है यहाँ पे?
वहाँ पे खड़ा बीच में खड़ा होकर उसको नज करते जा रहा है कि नहीं नहीं बोलो बोलो and then he
And
starts
lawyer
every
playing aside. That makes no sense. A lawyer would be fighting. Uzma would be sitting down. Diplomat would be sitting down 3 rows behind in the
yeah,
audience.
and it's not like the lawyer is incompetent, right?
Yeah.
Which would then also you would be like अच्छा ठीक है drama के लिए they're doing this, the lawyer cannot
Yeah.
handle it, so John Abraham steps in whatever
No.
but the lawyer
Like,
is doing
from the get-go, John Abraham just takes over the courtroom.
yeah. तो मुझे वही ना मतलब you're writing scenes around John Abraham, like John Abraham has to like remind Uzma that no, you have it in you,
Yeah.
you can do it, but then he kind of does most of the heavy lifting, like no pun intended. Like he's like end में chase scene होता है and for some reason John Abraham's like I'll drive. Like in what
But
world
at
is that happening?
at least, yeah, I think that part like feels, forget like the canonically inside the movie if it feels stupid. But like at least to me, I was like, okay, finally some John Abraham stuff, like
Yeah, but like that's not what it's set up for.
yeah, you've been cast as a diplomat, so I'm not sure why you're trying to do John Abraham stuff as a diplomat. That's the problem. Like he's feels like he's fighting with his own like character and image. He's like he's caught. He's like, okay, I'm known for this, but then my character right now is this, and at what point do I get to do what I usually do? The next third act.
It's a weird like it doesn't find a tonal balance, right? Because it John Abraham looks like John Abraham, and I mean they don't even dress him like in a way where his
Yeah, like
bulging muscles.
down, right? Like where
Yeah,
like chest is not like coming out of his like suit.
Yeah, like इतना छोटा सूट पहनाया हुआ है.
Yeah.
And the biggest mistake that they make is like they show the real dude at the end. So you,
Yeah.
if you watch this in a theater, you're like, एक second.
Yeah.
Have you been like this uncle is like, you know, John Abraham playing that Mishri dude who's been giving all the press conferences. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like why would you do that? And like because you've made Sushma Swaraj like 80% Sushma Swaraj, she's not like some, you know, Kriti Sanon or something.
Yeah. So you're like, why the inconsistency then? Like it's deliberate.
Yeah. But the bigger problem is that you decide, nah, like nobody is complaining when you lift up bikes and all that. They
Yeah.
want to see you do that.
Yeah.
So you do that. But then why do you have to like, if you're going to do a straight movie, then do a straight movie. Now, why do you have to like do all this middle of the ground? Like,
Exactly.
because then it,
Ben Affleck has done both. He has done
yeah.
a straight movie. He's like played as normal diplomat character in Argo, but he also played Batman. He can mold himself and the people around him ensure that his costumes are appropriate.
And he looked like, yeah, he doesn't look like somebody who will throw a punch to.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a Batman in Argo. He looks like, हाँ भाई इसको भेजा गया है like as a government employee, इसको figure out करना है.
Here, it looks like he can throw a punch. So when he doesn't, you're like, bhai, just maar dena Tahir ko tu ek.
Yeah.
Solve all your problems. He did like 5 times.
You were watching The Diplomat. You're not watching The Diplomat, JB Singh. You're watching John Abraham cosplay as a diplomat.
Yeah. And I'm
Unbalancing.
so we've spoken about like how miscast people are, you know, in Bollywood, but this is to like crazy levels now because you're actively hurting your own movie.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you're hurting whatever real story is behind this, right? Because when you have John Abraham in your movie, there is no way that anybody is going to look at anybody else because that's the movie is going to be designed around you. So the real person who like whatever the Uzma person, whatever she went through, she's just like a silent bystander in her own story.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean Bollywood, like unko, they don't see the irony of this whole thing, right? Where this real life woman was conned into coming to a different country by this man who tried to sell her and then, you know, take advantage of her, etc., etc., etc. And then the movie that's made on her life is basically doing the same thing. Then who's going to explain that to?
But you can't, right? So it's like these guys, everyone who like watches this movie and makes this movie and like enjoys this movie feels that the world is set up where men need to like save everyone else, right? Like that's the world. Like, even literally, like this movie is happening parallelly to a major incident between the two countries, and there also the entire operation has been described as like, oh yeah, we are saving you, like we're avenging the death of your husbands. Yeah, my husband mar gaya, so that's why we are avenging you. So like, at no point do they consider them as equal participants who are capable of like voices, who are capable of like saying.
No, but
what
put
they
them
have to
on the thing, no? Press conference में तो हम देखो women officers को डालेंगे. See how forward thinking we are.
But that's separate, right? But like, I think the actual theater, you just appropriate them. You're like, okay, you suffered. Now you are victim. You have no like voice. You have no like say in this matter. We will come and help save you, which is literally what John is doing. He's like, तो वैसा जो हो गया. पहले तो he questions her for like grills her for like half an hour. Like, the hell are you? Like, I'm like, guys, this is mental torture, and maybe show some empathy. Like, I was thinking of like, what was that series? Unbelievable.
I don't know.
Some of the big show where like the cop essentially like so much empathy there, right? Like what the woman is going through, like you know, like she's been abused. Like have some empathy. यहाँ पे like first second she's in, they're grilling her for like 15 minutes straight. I'm like, bhai, have some decency.
Yeah, that they do. Yeah. But this is, I don't know. This is like a trend, right? Because I remember we discussed like Satya Prem ki katha and all also, where there and what else? Like any random, like I think John Abraham's last movie also did something similar, where he declared that he's going to let the woman take the, as if you know they need to be given the permission.
Service. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought like for a while also that they're going to make a smarter point about, you know, how a woman is caught between governments run by like dudes and how decisions are being made on her behalf and nobody is letting her speak, and then she kind of do whatever drama, but then at least she has that realization, at least the movie has that realization and she's given a voice. But वो नहीं होता, you know. Instead, she's used as like the way that those soldiers are being used by the government to give press conferences as mascots. She is made into a mascot for whatever Sushma Swaraj did at the end, right?
Yeah, why is she in the movie? Like, literally at a crucial point when they're about to, for the first time, step into the code. The protagonist of the movie is like, oh yeah, I'm going to like give you someone who's gonna encourage you, and then he gives the phone to her and enters Sushma. What the hell is happening? The
Stupid.
should be called Sushma Swaraj Estate presents the diploma.
Yeah. Anyone but the real character we will throw a spotlight on, basically.
Yeah.
You know? And end में भी मतलब सुषमा स्वराज is all like waiting for her at the border and whatever.
And Beti aa gayi. Like that's the favorite thing about India, right? Like they abuse the hell out of women and then call them India ki betis.
Like Bulbul.
Yeah.
I don't know what the purpose of this film is actually. Because is it to be like you know, diplomacy is also a way to kind of de-escalate situations? Is it about
What diplomacy does he actually do, right? Like,
he just bikes
JP Singh,
few
like
calls?
he's being John Abraham. But at one point early in the movie, JP Singh sends Sharif Hashmi's character कि तू जा अपने पुलिस इन्फॉर्मेंट से बात कर and figure out what is happening.
वो 45 मिनट्स के लिए गायब हो जाता है.
Yeah. Okay. And he doesn't, they don't actually ever show what diplomacy does. He's just standing outside the police station. And after not doing anything for 45 minutes, he gets another call from JP Singh. And he's like, तू उसको बता दे, अब मेरे पास plan है. So at what point Tiwari ने करा क्या? And was not able to do any diplomacy. He didn't stick to a single police informant. And he just sat there and like, hello, the entire movie should have been that. Show that's diplomacy. You're calling a movie the Diplomat, but you're actually doing like scheming spy stuff.
And then they call Kumud Mishra, who's like comic relief for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of all this. And then for some reason they choose to have a courtroom scene जिसमें the judge is like, yeah, but she's an Indian, let her go. How will I stop her? So I was like, एक second, तो point क्या था इसका? मत नहीं डालो ना. It's not bringing anything to the table. Like, you might as well just show that chase scene at the end. Because I'll at least buy that.
Speaking of things nahi dalo, like for the longest time, because they foregrounded very early on, like that flashback thing, that like trauma that JP Singh apparently has gone through, and they keep doing it like 3-4 times, right? Eventually,
What show that we watched?
Sorry?
Was that show that we watched इसमें same thing होता है. The spy thing with the Anil Kapoor. Night Manager.
Oh, yeah. So for the longest time, thinking it, this would be relevant to like the situation that he has previously trusted some adult woman in some situation who like turned out to be a bomber or something, is what I'm thinking in my head. That's why it makes sense, right? Why would you show it so early on when she enters? Otherwise, because that's why you would understand, how would you would establish that? That's why he's hesitant to trust her, because he did so in the past and it blew like in his face. Turns out that's not the case at all. It's just some unrelated like traumatization. I'm like, but why then? Why?
Because they want to they want to show that John Abraham has like baggage and the cost of doing service to the country, you know, it's not easy. And then you have to sacrifice your family because the child keeps making an appearance, like his son also.
Oh yeah, again.
Yeah. वो आते रहता है and it's like really jarring because you don't know how, like.
Yeah.
And then I guess the point of that is to show that, you know, he's away from his family, he's away from his son, all the things that he sacrificed to do this. And people like John Abraham are keeping the country safe, not people like, you know, Pathan or whatever, I guess. But yeah, I suppose that's what the movie is about. But then again, if this is what the movie is about, then wow, have you exploited Bichari Uzma.
She's just like a cudgel to use like to do everything else except explore her.
She also has like a child who we never see in real life.
Yeah,
It's just,
what's
it's that.
And they always see in flashbacks where it's not from her POV.
Yeah.
It's from a third person's POV looking at Uzma and her kid.
Might as well be imaginary.
Yeah, and I'm like, why would you like imagine, like if you're looking at your own life, you would not have an auto body experience कि मेरे बच्ची मेरे बाजू में थी, but नहीं, मेरा कैमरा उधर था.
मुझे नहीं समझ आया और उसका माँ बाप नहीं है, वो कहाँ से है इंडिया में, what happened, because we meet her when she,
like we see the माँ बाप in the end, the real माँ बाप, they show up with the daughter, but apparently they don't matter in the movie. They're like, तुम बाहर में जाओ.
हाँ, like what were they not like making calls, where is our daughter, she's left.
Real life, like the Indian media, like 34 people would be at their house.
अरे पाकिस्तानी media was at her throat यार. 50 तो पाकिस्तानी मीडिया तो obviously it was an
And
incident.
Indian media is letting like them know, like how did you marry your Pakistani boy? Like, you know the questions.
Yeah. So fully like they ignored, like I have no idea where she's from, what she does. We meet her when she's in Malaysia, whatever. And then even there, when she calls up her friend, who unsurprisingly passes the phone over to her husband, who is fully prepared with like a plan of action.
Yeah, and like 5 seconds. Also, the movie's timeline is very confusing to me at sometimes, but I feel like that's like a
Yeah,
fourth level discussion we need to do.
that is not even something, yeah. मतलब समझ नहीं आता, and basically they end में they बोलते हैं कि 3 हफ्ते or something, you know, she stayed there for like
Yeah.
20 days or what.
No, that timeline, but even the marriage timeline, right? We go from, at one point, they say that she only has 1 month visa, right?
Mhm.
Which means she arrived like just and then escaped like 2 days
Three,
later.
yeah, I that's what I felt. I thought कि three
So
days
if
में.
he escaped 2 days later,
Yep.
why are there so many like abuses on her body?
Women who are still there.
Right? Because how many? Yeah, because it feels like there's a long time she spends at the house and then gets married and gets abused. And then at one
Mhm.
point, when the female officer examines her, she's like, there are old wounds on her vagina. And I'm like, how are there old wounds if she's been there for a few days?
हाँ, वो समझ नहीं आता.
What's something I like? So, like, I don't understand at what point she came to Pakistan and then at what point she escaped to the embassy. Like, what is that time period? Is it like days, weeks, months? Like, how long is it?
I think the entire ordeal is maybe like a month long. Is the feeling that I got after watching the movie. Now, if I'm totally off track, then that's the movie's fault because it doesn't.
Yeah. Because like you are giving me conflicting like timelines in different places. So I'm just like all over the way. I'm like, I don't know what's going on anyhow. So I don't care at this point. So I'll just let this go along with it.
This is one of those instances where I'm like, just keep it simple, you know. Don't do anything ulta pulta, don't do non-linear stuff. Just tell a
Yeah. There
straightforward.
was so much like flashbacks and other jumping point. Don't give me other character. But actually, I don't want to know like about JP Singh's family. Like I want it to be a locked room thing, like just like, yeah, like, they're trying to figure what to do here. Like they're caught in this thing. Solve it, finish it, go home. That's it.
This is a post-Razi world we're living in. So I don't even know if we could like make a generalized कि इनको कुछ आता नहीं है, this, that, whatever. Because
Yes.
it's clearly been proven like box office wise, forget quality. You could make it the greatest movie in the world, but if it flops, nobody takes it seriously here. But that movie made money, it made stars out of, its 2 stars. And generally speaking, it was quite toned down. It was character first, I have no
Yeah,
idea.
but that's what like tells you why the director and writer are always more important than the star.
Yeah,
But like, who's gonna tell Bollywood that?
whatever.
Right? And wrap it up. Hey, okay, then. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and YouTube at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever is the episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.